Hi, so as you can see, I am nowhere near as puffy, my eyes are not as droopy, and I'm just more sprightly. And that is because the inflammation has reduced a little bit. It doesn't mean that tomorrow morning I won't wake up with a load of inflammation again, but at the moment, I'm not saying it's completely gone, but the food seems to have helped so far by being largely by largely eating non-processed foods. I have had a couple of exceptions, like a bag of prawn cocktail quavers because I had to try them because they are new and vegan. However, this is not my plan on a daily basis, and I want to eat as little processed food as possible. My main meals have really upped the greens though, because I'm good generally at doing, the whole chickpeas and lentils and tomato thing, but I'm not very good at adding the greens because my gut tends to not really like an awful lot of broccoli, cauliflower, spring greens, kale, things like that since I've had my gallbladder out. So I'm in a bit of a contradiction because having your gallbladder out means that you're not supposed to have anything that's high fibre. But then trying to follow Tim Spector's advice, that's his surname, Tim Spector, I found it, who is the gut doctor that I was telling you about in the first video, trying to follow his advice on getting your gut health where it needs to be, one of the key points is to up the fibre. So I'm not sure what to do. If anybody else is trying to balance their gut microbiomes and has had their gallbladder out, let me know what you do. Let me know if you've spoken to a dietitian or a nutritionist, or if you've spoken to your doctor about this, because they kind of fight against each other, and I'm not sure whether I should just introduce the fibre but do it slowly, or if I should follow what's known as a low FODMAP diet. I don't know if any of you are aware of FODMAPs. FODMAPs, they stand for something, I can't remember what, so I'm a bit rubbish because I keep telling you things and then I don't know the full name. So that will be in the next video. But basically, there's a whole list of vegetables that make me bloat and have a sore tummy, such as onions, garlic, broccoli, cauliflower, and other cruciferous veg, cabbage, spring green, kales, all the things that are really good for you, full of nutrients, absolutely kill my intestines and put me in agony for hours, not mild discomfort. And everybody said when I first went vegan, oh, don't worry about it. It's just your body getting used to it. After a while, it'll calm down. Well, it doesn't calm down with me. Oh, baked beans. I can't have baked beans at all because I'm in agony. Lentils, the maximum I can have is a quarter of a tin. Chickpeas I can tolerate. But butter beans, navy beans, cannellini beans, agony, which limits me as a vegan because I don't just want to eat tofu and soya chunks. So, what should we eat instead? Well, for me personally, I try and head for a list of low FODMAP options and still get my greens in. It is more limited, but it's doable. Spinach is fine. Bok choy or pak choy, Chinese cabbage, absolutely brilliant. If you've not had it before, it's very mild in flavour. You can stir fry it, you can boil it. I tend to chop it and stir fry it. That's fine. Oh, mushrooms are high FODMAPs as well, which is surprising. They don't tend to affect me too much, but some people are in absolute agony with mushrooms. So there's one to look out for. It's listening to your own body. Not everybody has the same triggers. So what other greens can I have? Courgettes, I suppose they're greens-ish. Green peppers, rocket, lettuce. I'm fine with all of that. But yeah, I'm limited to spinach and bok choy out of the darker, leafier greens, which is a real shame because every single veg has different nutrients and I don't feel like I'm getting all of them from what I am having. So that's why I'm going to try and introduce just tiny amounts of the others into the diet and see how it affects me. I mean, I am an all or nothing person, so in the past I'd do half a plate of spring greens and then be in absolute agony, or half a plate of kale. And I thought to myself, well, why not just introduce a tiny handful of that with the bok choy and see how you cope with it? So I'll let you know on the next video how I got on with that. Okay, so what to eat with the low FODMAP greens. I'm trying to mix it up a bit. I'm a bit of a one for having a lot of starchy veg and not a lot of the lower calorie veg. And I know that I'm not trying to focus on calories, but I think it's important to note that if you are just having the legumes and the lentils and the chickpeas and you are trying to reduce your weight, you're going to make it a little bit difficult for yourself if you've got a big appetite like me, because you can possibly consume over 300 calories a tin if you're having a tin of chickpeas or lentils. And if you have a massive appetite, you could easily have a whole tin of each in a day. And that's more than half of your calorie intake per day if you are basing your diet on, say, a stereotypical 1,500 calories a day to lose weight. I'm not trying to get hung up on the calories this time, because calories alone without anything else don't really mean an awful lot. However, I do think it's important to keep it in check every now and then, just so that you don't go massively over if one of your goals is to lose weight. So a couple of spoonfuls of lentils instead of half a tin, maybe a spoonful of chickpeas, keep them in a sealed container. Squeeze of lemon, which helps release the iron and makes the iron work properly in the lentils. Same within the spinach. Always put some lemon or some lime on those spinach leaves. It releases it. Without doing that, you're not really unlocking the full potential of the iron that you're consuming in that veg. I am having baby new potatoes. I've got some whole grain pasta, but I'm just keeping it to a handful with each meal instead of maybe 3 or 4 handfuls like I would have done before. And I'm not having pasta more than maybe once a day, sometimes once every other day. If I do go for rice, I'm going for basmati as an absolute minimum, or brown rice, because basmati, and I can't remember if it's got a low glycemic load or a low glycemic index, but basically it stops your blood sugar from spiking as much as just normal long grain rice. So if you're trying to keep your hormones balanced, you want to go for at least basmati, and don't have a massive amount of rice. Again, have a handful of rice, and then you could maybe add that with some cauliflower rice or some spinach leaves, as one half of the plate. So I'd probably say a quarter of a plate of rice, quarter of a plate of leaves, and then a quarter of a plate of your starchy veg like your potatoes or your sweet potatoes, and then maybe a quarter of a plate of your mushrooms, your tomatoes, and then with some seeds sprinkled on the top, like sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds. Absolutely brilliant, full of zinc and loads of vitamins. Again, be careful if you're trying to lose weight, but you do want to include these if you possibly can, if you can tolerate them, if you don't have diverticulitis, because these are so good for you and they fill you up, and without them your diet is really missing some important essential nutrients, like magnesium and zinc. And if you just have a little look on the internet at the properties of what magnesium and zinc do for you, you'll be really surprised if you've not done that already. Okay, so far so good. Inflammation's going down. I've not been perfect. I have had a couple of things that are not whole food plant-based. Like I had a packet of prawn cocktail flavour quavers the other day because they were new and they were vegan, and I had to try them, as I do with everything that's new and vegan in Veganuary, which just makes everything a bit of a nightmare when I'm trying to do a health kick in the new year. But I'm trying to put a stop on that now and just keep it sensible. I had a couple of the meat-free Richmond sausages, but then I listened to a podcast about cellulose being in foods, and it's not particularly harmful per se, but your body doesn't know what to do with it, and it can play havoc with your gut biomes because it's not a natural thing that you're consuming. So it ends up, being flushed out like fibre. However, to put anything artificial into your body, like an artificial sweetener, I don't think it's the best thing to do. It's keeping it as unprocessed as possible. That is the key. Not overeating. The debate is out there on whether little and often is good, or whether just a couple of times a day, intermittent fasting. There's so many different pieces of advice that contradict each other. Tim Spector says that you're probably better having at least 12 hours in between your evening meal and your first meal of the next day. Like he said, a Spanish diet tends to be really good. They generally will skip breakfast, and that's how they can get away with having a bigger lunch and quite a nourishing evening meal, and they normally will have their evening meal quite late. And he said that is ideal, really, to have just 2 meals a day, but make them bigger and have them later in, like, for lunchtime, and then maybe 8 o'clock at night if that suits you. But the most important thing, he said, is to have a routine. The body likes a routine, and the body also likes regular sleep patterns of at least 8 hours. So we'll touch on that more in the next podcast, because I'm conscious of the time. This one's been longer than the first one. But please throw out your comments and questions. It's going to make it far more exciting when I've got interaction with other people. Okay, take care. I'll see you for podcast 3 very shortly. Bye.